Hey guys, sorry it's been a couple of weeks. I've been a little bit behind, but we're back, and today we're going to talk about the inside of the car and its instrumentation. We have a brief tour of the inside itself, but mainly we're going to talk about the MFD, the multifunctional display inside the car. All right, so here we are inside the car, and we're going to take you on a little tour. The interior of this car is very minimal. Although it is a touring car, it was not meant to be a luxury car, and it actually has fewer features than most of Nissan's cars did at the time. The simplified interior went along with its race-type purpose. So we'll start with the dashboard. In an earlier video, you saw the gauges, which were white and went up to 180 kilometers per hour for a standard V-Spec dashboard. Nismo has a cluster for the car. They make it with both a white background and this black background. I prefer the black. And it is a duplicate of the original dashboard. It bolts right in, but it does give you a top speed of 320 kilometers per hour. And it does give you an RPM that maxes out at 11,000 RPM. Of course, nobody runs 11,000 RPM RB26s. They get real dicey around 9,500. Over on the driver's side, we've got power mirrors, we've got power locks, we've got a way to lock out the passenger from activating their power mirror, and we have our power window controls. These controls here, this switch on the bottom, of course, left and right is for adjusting the mirrors. But Japanese cars do have power mirrors, where with a flick of the switch, you can fold them in and out for tight parking spaces. Very common on Japanese cars, not very common here in the US. We do have motorized headlights in the GTR. You can set the height of the headlight beam with this switch here by your right hand. The 3 is the lowest setting, 0 is the highest setting, and you know, in other countries besides the US, we trust people to set their headlights the way they need them for a certain time and speed of driving. So that remains on this car as well. Steering wheel, we've got an airbag, and we also have a passenger airbag on this car. We've got pretty standard controls. Your delayed wipers and washers are on the left stalk, and on the right stalk you've got the lights, which are manual, and you actually have a fog light control right here, and there is a rear red fog light on this car, which is kind of unique. If you look near the license plate, you'll see that there's a white lens next to it on one side and a red lens next to it on the other side. That is the rear fog light, and it is controlled by this. Here in the center, we've got our 6-speed shifter. Pattern is standard. First gear is in the upper left. This shift knob is the Nismo GT500 shift knob. It is not the factory shift knob. The factory one is leather and plastic and has a little GTR logo in it. But I like the Nismo accessories, so I have that. We've got a double DIN opening. I have an American radio in here, and it's pretty standard for the Nissans to have come with a single DIN radio and a dash pocket for storage. Climate controls are here. They are automatic. When you use them, you have controls like you've seen on every other American car. The only trick is when you're using your auto temperature control settings, of course, you're dealing with a Celsius readout. A push here will give you the outside temperature. There is a clock. There are defrosters. It's really no different from any other car in that way. Up here is one of the most interesting parts of the car, and I do get a lot of questions about this, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time on it. This is called the MFD, or multifunctional display. It has a number of functions. If you turn the key into the accessory position, it only displays the GTR logo, and it won't do anything else. This one says Nismo because we have upgraded it to the Nismo version of this display, and we'll talk a little bit about what's different between the Nismo version and the non-Nismo version. So as I walk through the features, I'll just tell you which features wouldn't be in the standard version. When you turn the car on, that's when we get our gauges. This is the most common display that people use. It's 7 electronic readouts. From top to bottom, we've got boost pressure, oil pressure, injector duty cycle from 0 to 100%, our oil temperature and our water temperature, and then an exhaust temperature and an intercooler temperature. On the non-V-Spec cars, the bottom two, exhaust temperature and intercooler temperature, would not appear. However, on the V-Spec cars, those sensors are there and they do appear here on the display. In the non-Nismo version of this, the second line, oil pressure, is actually replaced with accelerator position. What it does is it tells you exactly from 0 to 100% what your accelerator pedal position is at any given moment. Doesn't sound real useful, but we'll get to that when we get to the logging capabilities of the device, why somebody might find that useful. Some very simple controls here, 4 buttons: mode, menu, return, and display. And we have a joystick here that can go left, right, up, down, and of course you can push a button. A lot of people ask about the TV button here. Nissan did make certain radios that had TV tuners in them, and you could watch TV in your Skyline. The factory configuration had the image appear only when you were driving below 5 kilometers per hour. So you would still hear the audio when you were driving, and when you stopped your car, the television program would automatically appear on the display instead of whatever you had if you use this TV button to trigger it. All right, just to give these gauges a little motion, I'm going to start up the car. Now you're going to see all of our displays here, our boost, our injector cycles down at 2% because we aren't giving the car any gas or driving, and we've got all these gauges displayed. Now you may notice a thick white line. Take a look at the boost line there. If we give it a little gas and our boost shoots up, that white line is telling us what our recent maximum was. And maximums can always be reset by simply pushing the joystick button. So if you want to know what a peak is when you're not looking at a display, you could always go ahead and check out where that line is. And on other gauge displays, it tells you a little bit more info, and we'll get to that in a minute. But you can always reset your maximums on any screen by simply pushing the button. All right, let's look at some of the other displays. In addition to the 7-gauge display, we also have a 2-gauge display. 2-gauge display is configurable. We can configure any 2 gauges we want. And right now we're looking at boost pressure and we're looking at torque sent to the front wheels. The all-wheel drive system in a GTR R34 is rear-wheel drive primarily. However, some torque will be sent to the front wheels when necessary during slip, during aggressive turns, and that's what we're displaying here. We can use our menu system to select different configurations that we have. Here's one with boost and oil temperature. And as you notice, we still have our white line for maximum display, and we can always reset that simply by pushing the button. The next display is single gauge. Here we are in turbo, and when you display a single gauge and with the menu key, you can select any gauge that you wish to display. Boost is easiest for us to show while we're parked here. So you've got a peak display and you've got your line for your maximum. And over here you've got something pretty interesting. This is a 30-second history of what the gauge has done. So as you can see, if I bring the boost pressure up a little bit here, you can see the line rise. And when I let go, it drops back down. It's a great way to go back and look at your peak or how long you were at a peak. Sometimes it's useful on a dyno. It's kind of a neat feature.